Well, this is shaping up to be a pivotal week for Donald Trump's peace efforts in the Middle East. On Thursday, the US president set to unveil a reconstruction package for Gaza at the first formal meeting of his Board of Peace. Founding members signed the charter, of course, in Davos last month. Trump previewed yesterday that the group will pledge more than $5 billion for the enclave and commit thousands of troops to the international stabilization force meant to maintain security there. No further detail, though. Well, as a reminder, nearly 30 countries have joined the Board of Peace, many of them Muslim nations and countries led by close Trump allies. Most European nations have not joined. Skepticism remains about whether President Trump wants to expand the group's mandate beyond Gaza to even possibly supplant the United Nations. Well, I sat down with a man charged with leading the operational arm of the Board of Peace and the next steps in the reconstruction of Gaza. Nikolai Mladenov.
Say that this is an enormous task is a bit of an understatement. We have different tracks that we need to pursue pretty much simultaneously here. The first track is to make sure that the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, the Palestinian Committee, is able to go into the Gaza Strip and take over the civilians' governance there. Now, unfortunately, some people believe that this is a bit like changing a government after an election. It's far more complicated than that. We need to be able to verify and to confirm that the transfer of authority by Hamas to the National Committee happens in a meaningful way. Secondly, we need to make sure that what we are seeing today, the violations of the ceasefire that are occurring very often, stop. Because we should not put the new committee that goes into Gaza in a position in which you have Hamas and Israel firing at each other or provoking each other at different points of time. Thirdly, the committee needs to actually be able to deliver for people rather quickly. And the priority in that is obviously not reconstruction, because we're very far from that, but is to bring in humanitarian aid, to start removing the rubble and to start giving people at least some temporary housing and hope for the future. So this is one track. The second track, extremely important, is to begin the process of decommissioning of weapons in Gaza. And I think we should all agree, and I was just in a panel at the Munich Security Conference talking about this, we should all agree that there is no future political solution to the question of Palestine unless Gaza is the civilian governance of Gaza is handed over to the Transitional Committee and weapons are taken out of the control of the various factions and militants that exist in the Gaza Strip. Because that is the condition, in fact, that would allow Israeli forces to withdraw back to the fence and for us to be able to really move forward with what the 20-point plan of President Trump and the UN Security Council resolution requires, which is the rebuilding of Gaza and really reuniting them with the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank.
What I hear here is that the biggest challenge is getting Israel and Hamas to cooperate and to agree on the next steps. I have to ask you, do you have that?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I would say that we need to reach agreements with all sides in this situation. It is obviously, the factors inside Gaza are led by Hamas, and they need to understand very clearly what are the options ahead of us. Certainly, also the dialogue with the Israeli government needs to continue very much on issues related to humanitarian deliveries, to access to Gaza, but we can't do this as well without our partners in the region. And Egypt plays here a critical role, as well as Turkey and Qatar, the United States, and the broader Middle East, because we need everybody to be aligned on the messaging of this. And if I may, I think we need to make very clear to everyone that there are only three pathways forward. One pathway leads to a resumption of war, and that is certainly something that we want to avoid. The second pathway, perhaps even more dangerous than the resumption of war, is cementing the situation which you have now. 50% of Gaza's territory with 90% of the population under Hamas's control, the other 50% under Israel's control. This division of Gaza cemented over a long period of time is going to be a tragedy, not just for the people of Gaza, but for everyone on the ground. And the third pathway, which requires Hamas to give up civilian control of Gaza, to decommission all weapons inside the Gaza Strip, and to have a new governance model that allows for reconstruction to happen. Because no country around the world would actually put real money into rebuilding the Gaza Strip under the current conditions until we have a new governance system and no weapons underground or overground.